Okay, well, this is an interesting one, Josh, because we're gonna do Handsome Boy Modeling School. So,
Yeah.
how's your girl? An album that I'm very familiar with in terms of knowing it, and I don't know why I never visited this album for so many years. I do know, right? Like a lot of the back history of this
Okay.
group was named after a sketch on the Chris Elliott show. Josh, did you
Oh,
know
wow.
that? Is where it comes from. And two pretty famous hip hop artists who make up the members of the Handsome Boy Modeling School. Are you familiar with who Handsome Boy Modeling School is? The two members?
No, I knew
Ooh.
nothing about this band until after listening to it and kind of looking into it. So why don't you tell the listeners?
For the listeners, this one is Dan the Automator, who is a famous hip hop producer with Gorillaz, Dr. Octagon, and Prince Paul, who also did stuff with a lot of different artists, but probably is best known for his work with De La Soul. So, two folks that were highly influential, kind of coming together for a project here in 1999. It is a conceptual album. And it was designed to be a commentary on consumerism, materialism, and vanity, specifically in upper class society. So that's what they were going for. So a little bit of overview. I'll throw in some other stuff. This album has a ton of guest musicians. You've got like Mike D from the Beastie Boys. Father Guido Sarducci comes into the chat on this one. Del the Funky Homo Sapien, DJ Shadow, Sean Lennon is on this album. So like an interesting mix of different folks, and then found samples as well. I also should mention that both of the folks, even though they go by Dan the Automator and Prince Paul and Other Lives, on this album, they are credited as Nathaniel Merriweather for Dan and Chest Rockwell for Paul. Now,
Nice.
I'm sure you know what
Boogie
Chest
Nights.
Rockwell.
Right.
Yes, I knew immediately when I saw that. And the Nathaniel Merriweather name is considered to be a homage to the character Nathaniel Mayweather from Chris Elliott's movie Cabin Boy in 1994. So they are definitely Chris Elliott enthusiasts. Yeah.
I never saw Cabin Boy, but
It is funny.
There was a Cabin Boy like trailer on one of like the VHSs I had, because I always remember them going like Cabin Boy.
Yep. Yeah. I for whatever reason, I just always remember their boat's name was the Filthy Whore, is what I remember. It made me laugh quite a bit. So yeah,
Man.
It's. Should I recommend it to you? I think you'd find enough in it to like, but check it out when you get a chance. But
Yeah.
okay, little bit of review right there. What'd you think of this one? So how's your girl in this case, Josh? And how'd you think of Handsome Boy Modeling School?
Yeah, this was I didn't know this band by name or group or kind of anything about them, so it was really coming to this blank. I thought I don't know, I like thought, is this like some garage rock band I didn't know about, or it could be anything, because we've had a lot of. I'm also reading a book about post-punk right now, and there's like a million bands, a lot of which we talked about in the 80s, but this could be like a name of a post-punk band is my point. And so I was really pleasantly surprised. I would say no, I was blown away by this album. I really liked it. It feels so ahead of its time from where we are with a lot of the 90s rap that we've talked about. At the same time, I feel like it's kind of a natural evolution of where offshoots of hip hop are headed, or kind of we've heard tinges of it, I think, leading to this. This is basically feels like a who's who of like underground hip hop as well, if that's an appropriate title. It's a lot of it's a who's who of kind of people that would later on become, I would say, more prominent or always like behind the scenes. If you know hip hop at all, like in this time period or like in the 2000s, I feel like a lot of these people come up over and over again. One example would be Del the Funky Homo Sapien, who's on multiple tracks on this and is probably best known as like the voice of the Gorillaz song on Clint Eastwood, which was a huge hit. And so I don't know if I'm being clear, but like this is real. The other thing I really like about this is it's a real blending of DJing and like beat making and rapping. It feels like a true like each side is getting equal billing on this, which I think in a lot of rap in the 90s that we've talked about, it's more like MC focused versus like they may have a good beat, the Neptunes or something might have a good beat, but this feels like I don't know, it feels more organic, and it feels like that the care has been put into the beats, or it's I don't know, like it's given room to breathe in a way that a lot of songs aren't, if that makes sense. This album is more musical in a way, I think. And another example would be DJ Shadows on this, who we talked about with his album Introducing. He's on the song Holy Calamity. And so I feel like, I don't know if I'm saying this well enough, but there's a real like weight to the beats. Sometimes their songs are more instrumental and there's not even necessarily an MC on it, whereas other songs are real MC focused and have the them front and center, and kind of letting the rap part, the MC portion of rap shine. I also really like the variety of songs on this album and the different MCs. It's a real like every song has a different MC, and that hasn't really happened before, with albums that we listen to. There's obviously been groups like Wu-Tang who have lots of different members of the group, but this is like almost like a compilation album in some ways, even though there's the through line not only of the concept like you said, but Prince Paul and Dan the Automator kind of grounding everything. I just found this album really like easy to listen to and interesting. I thought all of the songs were different. I found the I guess what would be the sampling from the Chris Elliott sketch about being a handsome going to modeling school, like really entertaining and like funny and ridiculous. And so I thought that added a levity to the album as well. It is a long album at an hour and 9 minutes, but I feel like there's like a depth and kind of a complexity. There's a lot to dig into on this album, ultimately, is what I mean to say. And I don't know. I just was like, this put me, it's one of those albums where and this has happened on the show a lot of times, where I'm like, just kind of like really like blown away and like, caught off base in a good way in terms of what I'm listening to and what I was expecting. I think I felt this way too about the DJ Shadow album Introducing. That was obviously more trip hop kind of focused, but just doing something very different. I think I'm really high on this album. I'm interested to hear what you think about it.
Well, this is one of my favorite hip hop albums we've covered. It's probably the run of the show, Josh. I mean, it's I was vaguely familiar with what I was going to get. I knew who was involved, but I did not expect it to be as great as it was. I expected it to be good, but holy cow, this album is fantastic. From, you said the DJ Shadow, like he's on it, as you mentioned before with Holy Calamity, but the trip hop inspired sound is also the track before it, The Truth, which is this awesome, like trip hop inspired song. But the first songs, Rock and Roll Could Never Hip Hop Like This, is sort of a throwback to like Run DMC, Beastie Boys type fusion of hip hop. Metaphysical, A Good Day, has Mio Hatari on it, and it's a really vibey sort of it's at times ambient but just flow orient. Metaphysical, it feels like you're out of your body a little bit. As an experience. There's jazz piano all over. It just, as the album goes on, it's throwing you all kinds of different stuff. And then there's funny stuff like, Father Guido Sarducci doing like outtakes at the end, and the two, the modeling sucks with like the, with, I laughed every time. He's like, I'm not a male prostitute, when it would like come in over top of it, would make me laugh. So I like the samples. of the Chris Elliott stuff, pulling it together. Waterworld at track number 5 was a really great song. There really were no bad songs on this album. It did feel like a hip hop all-star album of the underground in all of the best ways. And we're seeing so many collectives of people at this point in hip hop, and some like Wu-Tang Clan are amazing, right? And then this is sort of like an all-star team of underground hip hop, I'd say.
Yep.
And it's really, to me, an indictment of what record companies and music did, that this type of hip hop just stayed underground so much.
You're right. Yeah.
Because I just feel like with the ability to be eclectic that the 90s had, that was one of its greatest strengths. You'd get certain stuff that would pop through. You get like The Light by Common, right? And Vibrant Thing by Q-Tip and like stuff like that. But it would always sort of be in its lane and not marketed, I think, kind of like the big brash, sex, drugs, and alcohol stuff. We're even going to do a Tribe Called Quest album later that we'll talk about, but I think that even fell victim a little bit to the times, right? As much as anything else. But this doesn't at all. This feels like it was operating... it even says a musical curriculum, right, from the Handsome Boy Modeling School in the album cover. And it does feel a little bit like that because it's great samples, it's great beats, it's very solid MC work, and it's eclectic. And it's just a higher IQ style of music in general. Not even just higher IQ hip hop. It's just higher IQ music in general. But not in a way that's limiting or they're sort of a little bit up their own ass, right? It's higher IQ just in the sense that the degree of difficulty of what they're doing is higher. And it has a re-listenability and a timelessness to it that even some of the tracks that made more money than it that we've covered in the last couple episodes, right, just don't have, right? And that's how we can stumble onto it right now and both be like, God damn, this is really good, because it feels like it is one foot in the back with some of the musical stylings, like the past, right? It very much also, though, sounds like the late 90s, like some of the movements going on there. And it also sounds like you could put this basically on right now to anybody who appreciates hip hop, and they'd immediately connect with it. Or even for that matter, in this day of mixed genres, right, and not as many gatekeepers, I have a hard time figuring out who would not like this album. So it's a real shame. As I was listening to this too, I was like, man, this is one that I hope Matt visits, because I do feel like this will very comfortably land in his lane, and that he would not be familiar with this as well. So a really, really strong recommendation. I don't know where this is going to end up in my rankings for the 90s, but it's going to be one of those that's going to be a surprise participant in some of the lists that we do. And it's really great. If you haven't listened to it, check it out.
It's almost like this album is like the promise of what hip hop can be, or it's like self-actualized in some ways. It's like taking it to a level that it rarely gets to, in the same way that other genres, like when somebody comes along and makes like a rock album in a way that rock has never been done before. That's like really what I think about this album is. It's like it's the natural, it's like the natural outgrowth of everything that we've listened to hip hop wise, but also is like this just kind of new branch of the tree almost, or something. It's like I don't know, it's just something feels entirely like refreshing, and in some ways, like, rightly or wrongly, like maybe this is like what hip hop didn't end up being. It's like the road not traveled, or kind of like the side road that should have been the main road, if that makes sense.
I hear what you're saying.
So yeah, I can't recommend this album highly enough.
Yeah, I agree. It's well worth checking out if you're not familiar with it, especially if you find yourself digging any of the guest artists we mentioned, but things like Common, A Tribe Called Quest, and also things like Beastie Boys and DJ Shadow and Fatboy Slim. One thing I'd say about this album that I love too is that it's not sample spam, where sometimes there's so many samples that it can feel a little bit academic as opposed to just grooving with it, which some
Yep.
of the albums did. This one has the perfect amount of samples to song, I'd say, in terms of what they're working off of. So credit to
Yeah,
basically everybody working on this.
it's integrated really, really naturally and kind of like, again, organically to everything.